All right. Welcome, everybody. I today have the privilege of speaking with Sam Cradduck, and she is the founder, CEO, master wizard when it comes to More Than Heart, which is family and caregiving training, and it's so much more than that. I've been reflecting the past few weeks on really leading up to this, and yes, I've been sick, so I've had time to really step back and think. But really what you're creating here is, I know we focus on seniors and caregivers, but when you look back, and I'm fortunate to be in this position, that you're really teaching skills that anybody could tune into. Like, you swap it out with senior, and maybe it's somebody who sits across the aisle on you on the political side, or it is just somebody who you've never met before. The tools that you do are just simple tricks that everybody, I think, can put in their brain, put in their pocket for a rainy day when they pass by somebody and maybe that person is just going off down the street. And rather than triggering something in you now, you can take a deep breath and be like, wow, okay, this person, because Sam said XYZ, like it just calms you down. So with that, and with what you know about really my audience and real estate agents, and we've all kind of heard the silver tsunami, it's here, but it hasn't quite completely taken its full effect.
Right.
I want your perspective first on how maybe the seniors can start preparing themselves.
Okay.
And then on the other side of that, how real estate agents can be more advocates rather than looked at as a transactional person along this journey. So how they can walk alongside the family as well as that senior who is transitioning into either a smaller home, right? A home that they haven't been in for 30 plus years, and they know they won't have the memories of 30 years, or a different place that maybe they quite aren't ready to go to.
Sure. So, thank you. Thanks for having me. And your kind words. I don't see myself as a guru. I just see myself as a simple old country gal that happens to love people. And I do agree. What I teach it does translate to everybody. Be it somebody that's neurodivergent, somebody that's across the political aisle, somebody that maybe doesn't hold the same belief systems or does. I say it all the time. We are human always. And it's our humanity that we all have in common. So there's so much more in common with all of us than there is that divides us. We just stop tapping into it. And I try and get people to tap into that. From our age community, everybody wants to age in place. If you ask somebody, hey, where do you want to live when you get older? Oh, I want to live in my home. Okay, is your home a 2-story home with the only shower access is on the second floor? Have you thought about what's going to happen when Arthur comes to visit, arthritis, and it's hard to get up those stairs to get to that shower? Have you considered navigating those things possibly with a cognitive decline or degenerative disease that leaves you unable? So unfortunately, as much as everyone wants to live in their own home until they go through their final sunset, the majority of us do have to relocate or make certain, decisions that allows us to stay safely there. And so I think from a senior's perspective, start preparing yourself. I get it, and I do teach to other agents. And, I said this to you, the walls of our homes are literally painted with memories. You can go around your house and you can see a little ding on the wall and you can say, oh, that's where my kid threw that Lego. Or that's where I was moving the dresser and I told him not to push and he did, and we scratched. There's all those things. Your walls literally hold your memories. And our age community recognizes that there's not enough time to build new memories lots of times. And so you live in a house for 30 plus years. When you're 80, you don't have 30 plus years of memories left to gain. So your paint bucket's getting a little bit empty. You also have to realize, and this is the one that nobody really thinks about, if I live in this big house, I have space for my kids to come visit. I have space for my grandkids to come and stay. Even if they don't, I can hold on to the hope that they will, and that door is open to them. But if I move into a community, into an assisted living, an independent living, into a small apartment, into a smaller home, and I downsize, I'll have the space to entertain. Even if I haven't entertained for 4, 5, 10 years, I still hold on to the hope that I will. And so that's kind of one of those unspoken things that we never really talk about. What you have to realize is almost everything that we go through in our lives, there's a villain. There is going to be a villain in almost every story. And so from a real estate agent's side, you don't want to be the villain. You do not want to be the one that comes in and says, you have to leave, you have to move. You want to be the one that comes in and says, it's probably time for safety's sake because of the disease, because of the aging, because of the condition. Let the condition become the villain. Don't become the villain yourself. Everybody has to be mad at something when they're losing something. When you're losing someone, it's why hospice agencies get such a bad rap. They came in and they killed my mom. They came in and killed my grandpa. No, they gave comfort while that person was passing away. But it's sometimes hard for us to focus that it's the disease or it's aging or it's just normal life that takes people. And so we look for a villain in the story. Our agents need to not be the villain. And how do you do that? You recognize what the person's going through. Recognize that literally every move is grief. Whether you're 20 and you're moving out of your parents' house, or you're moving out of your first home that you bought with your spouse because you've gotten to upsize and your family's growing, you grieve the little home. You grieve your first place. Or you've divorced, whatever the reason is, we all go through grief when we're moving. And for some reason, culturally, we've neglected to realize that our older people grieve. We almost have it in a mindset that you're at that age, you should expect loss. Well, I know it's going to happen. I might expect it, but it doesn't mean it doesn't have an impact. It doesn't mean that it's not hard for me. The reality is it's harder for me because I'm dealing with so many losses. Once you reach your 70s, you start losing your friends. You start losing your family members. Your circle starts to shrink. And so now you're going to lose your home too because your spouse passed away and affordability's not there, because your spouse passed away and they were your caregiver. They were the one that took care of you and kept you safely in the home. So you have to realize that there's a lot of things that are going on in the midst of this. And these folks are grieving what they had, even if they're making the decision to move. I've made many decisions to move, and I've grieved every move.
Well, and I would say even with seniors too, as you were talking, and it's our human, as we get older, we realize that we're losing, I want to say, some of our independence.
Yeah.
Is one of the things that comes up.
Yeah.
Or we're losing, and this kind of goes with independence and everything, but we can't do the things we once did that once brought us joy, and we're not sure what will bring us joy. And like you said, this house is full of memories, most of them probably joyful or that I can connect to. Now you're going to put me in a whole new place that it's like putting me in a house that has white walls, right? Like that, there's nothing there. There's nothing for joy, you know. And now I know my kids aren't going to come visit because it's a 1 bedroom, 1 bath, as far as like nobody's going to stay the night with me now. Mm-hmm. You know, what does all of that look like? How do I bring those memories in? So as agents, what are some of the things that maybe like they're questions that they could ask in order to find something to bring the joy in the home?
So, yeah, great question. How do you move from this home that's painted Technicolor with memories to this whitewashed static place? You have to bring your memories with you, even if you can't bring all of your items. And it's rare that you're going to get to bring all of your belongings. Very rare. So, but you know, we have to realize that stuff isn't just stuff. That's a big thing for me. I've never heard anybody that's lost everything in a natural disaster that's like, shoot, I'm glad all that's gone. We don't. You know, our stuff is tied to things. It's tied to memories. It's part of who we are. We spend a lifetime collecting it. And then too frequently people come in and they're like, well, you need to get rid of this and you need to get rid of that. And you're like, well, wait a minute. That's what your grandpa gave me when we started dating. That's important to me. And so from the aging person's perspective, you've got items, you've got those things, and you have to think about it like this. If you were in a natural disaster, if somebody called you and said, the fire is going to take your home, you have 5 hours to decide all of the things in your home that are the most important that you would love to save. What are those items that you're going to pick? And you do everything you can to make sure that those are the items that get to go with you. Because if you're going to preserve them from a fire, they're important enough for you to take along with you wherever you go. That doesn't mean that the other stuff isn't important. So now as an agent, you know what? Preserve their memories. Go around their house, videotape, ask the stories, take the time. And a lot of agents, you know, I get it. It's so much easier to sell to a younger couple because they're going to text you back. They're not going to call you and be on the phone for hours. They're going to text you. They're going to go in. They're going to look around. They're going to go, yep, this is what I want. Here's my information. This is the offer I want to make. And it's a transaction that's done. You're working with somebody that's older. Number one, first thing you got to know is they are slow cookers. And you're not playing with a pressure cooker here. You're playing with a slow cooker. And you've got to have the patience of Job right now. You've got to literally be ready to slow your life down and know that this transaction's not going to happen quick. So if you're in it for the most bang for your buck and the most money you can make, working with our age communities probably not the place to be. Go find the younger investors. Go find the young couples or the young singles. But if you're wanting to do a great service, then take the time, sit, tell me your memories, walk around the house with them, with your video camera, with your phone on record, and then gift that to them. You know, I know an agent that after she helped move a lady into an assisted living, she went back and went around the neighborhood and had all the neighbors sign a card. And I thought, oh my gosh, you found the heart. Literally the heart of the move. And it was just, for me, it was like I wanted to give her the biggest reward for dignity and empathy that day when I heard that. That was the coolest thing because she brought it to her and gifted it to her after they got her settled. And so that she recognized that not only are you leaving your home, you're leaving your neighborhood. And while many of us don't have neighbors that we're connected to because it's just the world changed, I grew up where your neighbors were your family. They were part of who you were. And so if you've lived in the same house for all of these years, you probably have a connection to your neighborhood, to your church, to your grocery store, to all of those things. It's not just leaving the house, it's leaving your community and your connection. And so from an agent side, recognize that and glean from that. Okay, maybe they're not going to watch that video, but you can get still pictures.
Yeah, I was gonna say the still pic when you were saying like the nicks, and it was like it would be a cool thing, just take a picture of those nicks. Like they don't mean anything to you, right? Like I was thinking even the subcontractors, like it doesn't mean anything to them. It's a hole in the wall, they're gonna cover it up.
Yeah.
But take a picture before it gets covered up and just start compiling, like help them compile memories. And the next side is like, don't just deliver it to them digitally, like print it out, go on to, Vistaprint and create a little book, or like there's so many things that you can do to set it up. And even as you're saying, like if they had a favorite florist, like once they move in, have flowers there that were their favorite, or maybe it's 6 months, like check in with them, send them the flowers from their favorite florist, or send them, we have DoorDash now, send them a cup of coffee, or better yet, take them that cup of coffee and be like, hey, Sam, I remember that you were telling me that story. Remember that huge, like, hole in the wall that you just couldn't patch up? Like, could you tell me that again? Like, just getting them to talk and spending an hour.
Yeah. Quality time. That's where our age community is time is the most important thing to them. And they know that time is limited. When you reach your 70s is when you really start to look at mortality. Until then, we're invincible. We're going to live forever, and we're never going to age until we look in the mirror and we're like, oh, holy cannolis, I look like my mom now, or I look like my grandma. It's kind of interesting how it rolls. But even then, until you look in a mirror, we all still see ourselves in like our 20s and 30s. And then we're like, nope, it doesn't bend that way anymore. I can't do that anymore. And so when you reach your 70s, that's when you're really starting to shift into, my time is limited. I think it's the first time, psychologically that we really start to grasp that. And so from an agent side, yeah, I get it. I get it's an hour of your time, and our time is valuable and we're all busy. But that hour and that connection is life-changing for that person and for you. Because I say it when I teach all the time, our age community, walking, living, breathing history books. Sit down and spend some time turning the pages. Don't just look at the cover and see that it's worn and dusty and not take time to look at the content. Because the content is going to be so rich and so full. You just have to open the book up. And almost every age person, the minute you do, they're like, and that's what we used to do. Retirement's kind of a new thing. Retirement didn't happen until the 20s and 30s when we started talking about Social Security, and then in the 30s when we implemented it. Before that, you aged and you became a mentor, you became a trainer. You taught the younger people, younger tradesmen. Might not do the physical work anymore, but you were held at that high level. We became an instant society. Older people move slower. It's like the old Carol Burnett and Tim Conway show, Mr. DeWiggins, as he's, and how he's shuffling, and you're behind him going, I gotta get down the hall. No. You've got to slow down and you got to take time. So if you're an agent and you're called to work, and I do believe it needs to be a calling to work with our aged community, you're going to be in a place to hold them up, to help them through. You become a counselor in the midst. You're not just selling a house, you're selling a home, and you're not just leading them into another place that they may go 10 more places. You're potentially leading them into the place that they will live the rest of their days in. And that's what you kind of hope you're able to do. You kind of hope you're able to give them that peaceful place. And so you gotta do that with purpose. You can't just do that as a transaction. You can't just say, okay, well, here's the paperwork. I need you to sign. What? Well, you're gonna list your house with me today. I don't know if I'm ready to move. Well, but you have to. Do I? Do I have to?
They're gonna dig in deeper if you approach it.
If you approach it that way, they're gonna dig in deeper, and you have to be prepared with enough answers that says, you know what? You really want to stay here? How can we make this a safe situation for you? Maybe they're not ready. Maybe the family members called you in, and when you sat down, they're absolutely not ready. They're not, and they can afford to live there. Then be prepared for that and say, you know what? Okay, maybe, daughter, maybe we can just bring in a caregiver a couple times a week to help mom or dad, or mom and dad, or grandma and grandpa, or whoever it is. Maybe that's the transition that we need to do now. Maybe we don't need to go for the gusto. And yeah, I get that in doing that, you may lose that signing, but guess who they're coming to when they're ready? They're coming to the person that honored them. So that seed that you sowed there may not grow for another year or 18 months or 2 years or 5, but that seed you sowed is there. And then you fertilize it, you water it, and you check in, and you go hear the stories, and you don't do it from well, are you ready to sign yet? Ready to sell this house? I'm ready to sell it for you. No. How are you doing? Are you still feeling safe? Any falls? Any issues? Anything that we can help with?
Now, is that where you see like agents, and I know there's quite a few that you know that have created downsizing guides as maybe some steps of like just breaking the ice rather than we're going to sell today of, okay, let's just talk about the steps because we know this is coming. Where can I help you and your daughter? Or where can I help you and your husband? Maybe they're both still living, but more of, we know this is coming. I'm not coming to you today because I want to sell your house. I'm coming to you as a friend of, we know this, we all know this is coming. Like, I could probably start working on some of the stuff that's in this book as well. Right? Like
we all could maybe start to get rid of some stuff.
Yeah.
I think the conversation has to start small, and it has to start early. The unfortunate side of most of us is we don't talk about and we don't address end of life issues or change of life issues until we're in crisis. And the minute we're in crisis is when somebody else is making decisions for you, or the decisions you're having to make don't line up with what you want. Crisis is the fire's coming and you've got 15 minutes to get out the door. What are you taking? Hopefully yourself and any living pets and any other living beings. And you're getting out of Dodge with shoes on your feet if you can get them on. It's not that I've got 5 hours to decide and look at my stuff and say, this, I want this, and I want this, and I want this. So I think we all need to plan for aging, no different than we should plan for natural disasters. No different than we should plan for something catastrophic, be it, tornado, be it hurricane, be it, I'm in California, fires and earthquakes. We should all be prepared. Well, prepare for aging the same way you would, only recognize that it's not a disaster, it's a natural process. So I don't know that a fire is ever going to come and take my home, but I'm going to be prepared for it. I do know that I'm going to get older, God willing, if something catastrophic doesn't happen. Why won't I prepare for it? And most people don't. And it's because the thought of not existing as a person is a lot harder to manage than the thought of even losing my home to a disaster. But because of that, we lose all of our choices. We think by not making decisions, we're preserving ourselves, but the reality is, by not making our decisions, we're leaving it up to someone else when something happens. We're losing all of our options.
So for all you control freaks that are tuning in, and I know a lot of real estate agents are, we're not just talking about how you can serve the aging community. This is for you too. Start planning. So I'm going to put a little plug in here. You have, 5 books now?
Yes.
4 books.
Yes.
5 books. What book would you say agents could tap in that resource and bring to the table, depending on different stages that maybe their clients are in? So could you highlight those?
So on the book side, we have A Bend in the Road is a series. And currently right now, we have The Caregiver Journey. And within the next 2 weeks, we'll have the Aging with Dignity also. And then by April 1, after the final sunset, which is taking the caregiver back from, you've been taking care of your loved one, they've passed, they've gone through their final sunset. How do you deal with the grief, but then actually the loss of your own purpose, because you've been a caregiver? And so it's a twofold thing. You're losing a person, but you're losing a purpose in the midst. And so that one will be out by April 1. The 2 booklets are When I Can No Longer, Will You Please? And that's a book that we should all fill out. I think you looked around for your copy. I've got up here.
Here's the Bend in the Road. Here it is.
That's the bend. Yeah. There you go. For When I Can No Longer. So this one is, hey, you know what? Whether I've passed away and somebody needs to still pay the electric bill until we get through probate or whatever, this is the book that tells all of the passcodes, all of the ways to pay the bills, where my money is, what's my, do you know that you have to know how to pay them? Do you know you have to know your paternal parents, maternal parents' maiden name, and paternal parents' maiden name for death certificates? So that information's already in there. So if something happens, the family's not struggling to find, maybe you're in the hospital and you broke a hip. You're going to now go into a rehab for a while. And the house still has bills to be paid. So that one's that one. And then there's another one, and I love it. It's The Care and Feeding Instructions for Me. And that book is so, and I tell people this, I may someday lose my voice. I may someday not be able to speak my mind and not be in my right mind. That may happen. But that does not mean that my preferences do not matter. Like that one right there. The music I love and the music I hate. If you leave me in a room with nothing playing, it's going to drive me nuts.
It'll drive me nuts too.
But if you leave me in a room with rap music, I'm going to want to kill you. So we all have idiosyncrasies. We all have preferences. We all have things that matter so much to us. How do you like your first cup of coffee in the morning? That means the world. A good cup of coffee in the morning, it's either a good day or a bad day. And if I can't tell you how to make it, maybe I can't even remember how I like it, but I can taste what I like. And you don't know, I'm not going to be satisfied.
I was going to say, as you said too, as a clip, which I didn't think about this, but it would drive me crazy. Like putting myself in 80-year-old, maybe like I have dementia or Alzheimer's or something. Like if I feel the hair under my chin, I am sorry. I am going to be irritated no matter what. So somebody better, pluck them, shave me, whatever. But if I have a long one hanging off, like, I'm going to come unglued because I have certain memories of certain people in my past and I do not want to look like that.
So that's in that book. And one of my very first ever viral clips was me going, do not let me have a beard. And it is bewildering. And I get some women are like, cool, let it grow. I don't care. Great. If that's your gig, that's your gig. But if you've always been well-groomed, well-kept, and it's what you want, male or female, whether you want your face shaved or you want to have a beard, I don't care, but it needs to be your choice. And those things are always going to be super important. My mom, literally on her deathbed, looked up and said, I'm talking deathbed like hours before her last breath, looked up and said, I didn't pluck my eyebrows. It was huge. It was so important. And my daughter did that for her. So we have to recognize that these little idiosyncrasies of ours, these things that matter about our own personal care and about our home, will always matter even when we can't do it or we can't communicate it. And the only way for somebody to know is to tell them. Can you imagine this one? Have a catastrophic stroke, you're nonverbal. And maybe you're allergic to a laundry detergent, or you're like me and you can't stand the smell of some of them. Okay? I'm really funny about scents. And your caregiver comes in having no idea, or your family member, and they go to the store and they buy that soap that you're allergic to, or they buy that scent that you can't stand, and they wash your sheets, and there you lay like you've got fire ants crawling all over you. But you can't connect the dots any longer between this is what the problem is, and you can't communicate it. So put those together. There's another one book that's out. It's Only Babies Mess Their Pants, and Other Lies That It.
I would say that this book is one that agents need to read before they decide one way or another if they're going to work with seniors or not, because I think there's a lot of just eye-opening things to this, and that will mentally help you if you do continue to go down. Because maybe this book, I think there's stuff that the caregiver probably hasn't been taught or thought about, but if you just have the knowledge, again, you can be more human with them, and then you can figure out, like those fire ant things, okay, this is something that they are not proud of, right? Like maybe there's a joke you can crack before it goes, like, listen, we talk about the panty liners, right? Like, listen, I didn't want to admit it, but I'm 36 and those panty liners make all the difference now. And then they are like, oh, phew, like, I'm not the old one who has to have panty liners or Depends, God forbid, you know?
There's never a time that I teach that I don't literally show the backing of an incontinence supply and say, you know, if I can stand in front of you today and tell you that, yes, I'm on the south side of 60, but I've given birth 4 times. I had a hysterectomy. My bladder's swinging in there. It doesn't have a support system. So a sneeze can be a catastrophic failure in my world. And to talk about those things lightens it up for them, lightens it up for everyone. It makes it normal. You know, that only babies mess their pants mindset, that is just ageism out the gazoodle. but it's how you know, when we were potty training our children, we literally said these things. Oh, honey, only babies mess their pants. Big girls don't pee in their pants. Big boys don't pee in their pants.
Do you want me to tell a funny joke there about that? Okay, you'll appreciate this. So, a little bit more information about Sam. She loves softball. I used to play softball, played it throughout college. Well, one of the tournaments, I was a catcher. I was sicker than I am right now. And it was the flu, and we all know what happens when the flu comes. Well, I was working through this so that we could get to playoffs, and like this was a big game. I got up to bat. I swung. It should have been a double or a triple, and I made it to first, and my coach was yelling at me and saying, go, 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 and I said, no, 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 because I had shit my pants. I swung and the dam broke. It was the flu. The dam broke. It didn't come out the top. It came out the bottom. So, there's the lie. And I've told that story a few times, and I can't tell you how many players are like, oh yeah, like that has happened to me. So, it happens to the best of us.
It happens. It happens. And we need to take the shame out of it. We live in bodies that are mechanical. And sometimes mechanical things break and they fail and they need tune-ups. And so we have to look at it that way. Okay, so you pooped your pants and you stood on first base, and did you get to the tournament? Did you win?
We got there. I was pulled out, but we got there. It was fine. And you know what? It's a great story now because it makes me relatable.
Totally. Totally. I mean, I will be honest, there is no way, and I played up until not that many years ago, there is no way I would get on a ball field without an incontinence supply on. It's not happening, because I know that the minute I go to take off and run, or the minute I swing the bat, or I go for a ball, I know stress incontinence is going to hit, and I stand there with my pants wet. And so I say we have to take the shame out of these things. We need to make aging normal. We need to bring it back in. And ageism exists across the board. Ageism exists in our aged community. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. Holy smokes, how many new things have you learned?
I know agents right now, or just people who are more intelligent than I am with technology and AI. And don't tell me you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Let's just bring it back to agents. There are agents running circles, older agents running circles. Alexis Bolin, who's in Star Power, she's running circles around the younger agents and newer agents.
You have to take away these little lies that have adversely affect our aged population. And we have to embrace our aging ourselves. You got to be willing to say, you know what? I get people all the time that are like, are you going to dye your hair? Why? So I can do another maintenance thing that I don't want to do because, I just don't want to do those things. I'm okay with the fact that I've got gray hair. I'm surprised at how much gray hair I have, but I'm okay that it's gray. And I'm okay if somebody else chooses to dye their hair. How you choose to age is on you. But we've got to get rid of this mindset that it's a negative thing. I say this. We've got this mindset that aging is a crisis. We have an aging crisis. No. Aging is a normal part of humanity. Aging is what we do from the day that we're born until the day of our final sunset. We're older right now than we were when we started this. We're aging as we speak. And so aging's normal. Caregiving is a crisis. Understanding is a crisis. Empathy is a crisis. Aging is normal. And when the agents themselves start to see it that way and embrace it that way and relate it that way back to our community, then they connect. You know, there's not one person in an assisted living or in a private home using a walker, an oxygen supply, a Moby, a cane, any assisted device that ever saw themselves being okay with it. We don't see ourselves being okay with needing help because we're independent. Guess what? I had 20/10 vision. I have trifocals now, so when I took them off, I can't see you anymore. I'm okay putting on glasses, and the day will come where I'll be okay using a walker or a wheelchair or oxygen. Thank God for most of us, it doesn't happen all at once. For some catastrophic injuries and illnesses, it does. Thank God it comes on gradually and we get to get used to limitations. But I'll tell anyone, I'll take my oxygen tank and go to my grandkids' wedding. I'll ride in a wheelchair to be there. Whatever it takes to still be engaged with the people that I love and I care about. When we start to embrace that, when we start to see that at a younger age, then we age better. Mentally, we age healthier. And then we can impart it to our aged community that didn't grow up that way. They didn't grow up believing that this is okay, that needing help is okay, that having someone else do things for you is okay. You know, we kind of have this whole mindset that, you know, we're supposed to do everything on our own. But we're talking about a bootstrap community. We're talking about a generation where when something terrible happened, you literally had to pull your bootstraps back up and just get back out there. There wasn't time for grief. There wasn't time for mourning. There wasn't time for feeling bad. There wasn't time for illnesses because you had things you had to do. And then when you can't do them all, you're losing a sense of identity and self-worth.
So, as you were just saying that too, do you think that is why seniors right now are having such a hard time grieving because they can't pull up their bootstraps anymore? And the second half of that is that it's a flood of grieving. Like now they actually have permission to grieve, so maybe they're grieving something that happened to them in their 20s and then now it's just hitting them in their 80s, 90s.
Yeah. It's the dam gets opened up. And most of us are always afraid that if we ever open the dam, the flood will just take over. And so we don't. And then we hide behind our own walls emotionally to protect ourselves. So when you come in and you say, you know, hey, Miss Smith, really do understand how hard this is. I really do respect that this is your home. Talk to me about your home. Tell me, when did you get it? Get their history. Oh, honey, me and Charles, we bought it together. It was our first home. We raised all 5 of our kids here, our grandkids. Look at that growth chart over there. Oh my gosh, you've marked all of your kids' heights on the wall. You know what you can do as an agent? You can capture that. I did it many times. Come in with literally wax paper and draw it again and transfer it into their new house. Put it on a board and hang it on the wall in the new house. Whatever you got to do, you preserve that piece of drywall. You make sure that those memories are going. Spend time, but acknowledge the pain and the suffering and how hard this is. Honey, you're going to be moving into a 1-bedroom. What here do you want to take with you? Can we talk about the things that are the most important?
Do you ever have agents you heard of agents maybe saying, okay, let's just say your kitchen living room is going to be the space that you're moving into. Can you imagine this piece in here? And so that they can visually see it, 'cause sometimes they have these big pieces that mean so much to them, but then when you put it in perspective of like, this is the size of the home that we have decided is manageable. Like, we as a collective, you and I, not like the daughter and I, but like that we went and we saw and you were comfortable with. Now, let's put those pieces in here. Have you ever heard people doing that?
I haven't, but I think what, with AI as prevalent as it is, and most of the agents are learning AI, most people are, you can literally take pictures of rooms in houses now and take pictures of furniture and show it and say, okay, that 9-foot knockdown wardrobe isn't going to work in a 7.5-foot ceiling, or it's going to take up, 30% of your living space. Are you okay? Yeah, that was my grandmother's and I'm not getting rid of it for anything. Okay, that's fine. But you can't have a king size bed then. I'm good going to a full bed. I sleep alone now, but I've got to have that. Okay. Then you make those compromises, but you make them together and you make sure that you're still providing safety with them. You have to bring them into the home. I am not just this flesh and bones. I'm this. I'm the world around me. Don't move me out without Mama sitting behind me here over my shoulder. That's one of the things that I grab in my 5 hours or my 5 minutes. So those are the things that as agents you have to be willing to do. You have to be willing to say, you know what? Okay, we need to have this much of a pathway. We don't want it to look like a hoarder's home at this point. We don't want it to be unsafe. We need you to have safe space to ambulate and get around. And we need safe space for any caregivers or other people that might be assisting. But yeah, there's certain things we can take along. And maybe we can put that hutch that's really super important to you. Maybe it doesn't fit in the small little dining room of a 1-bedroom apartment. But you know what? If we don't have a dresser and we put just shelving in your closet, maybe we can put it in the bedroom where the dresser would go. Be creative, because those things matter. And I get that we don't get to move everything, but we shouldn't have to lose everything either. And the things that we can't have, do they mean something to my family? And I get that a lot of family members don't want to deal with our clutter and our mess, but a lot of family members do. A lot of family members want to hang on to those things just as much as we did. So that's when you say, okay, who do you want to have this? Not, hey, come over and pick up whatever you want. It's, oh no, I want Johnny to have that. I want the straight razors. They were my grandfather's. Well, my granddaughter's a cosmetologist. I want her to have those because they line up with what she does for a living. She'll never use them because they're dull and rusty, but they're from the 1800s because they were my grandfather's. So I want her to have this.
And so as caregivers, as you're saying that too, as caregivers, because sometimes we get gifted things from our grandparents or from our family that we don't want. Would you recommend, okay, Mom, I don't make it a fight with them in that moment, accept it. And then once you take possession of it, then you can wait maybe until they pass, but then you can pass that along to maybe you have an antique store that you're friends with, or somebody who would truly enjoy that.
Right. I don't think any family member should ever, and unfortunately I've seen this, where families are like, I don't want their junk. Please don't tell me my stuff is junk. One man's junk is another man's treasure, and it's my treasure. So please don't refer to my stuff as junk. And don't just refer to it as stuff. It's my treasures. So if you don't appreciate my treasures, that's okay. You don't have to. Maybe your kids will. Because there's always those anomalies that rise up in families that are generations behind the generation they're born in. I've got a niece who likes to go to thrift stores and find old needle points that have never been done, the pattern, and do them. And I'm like, you're literally now in your 30s and you're doing like needle points from the 20s and 30s and 40s, but she
needlepoint and all of that is coming back hard right now, so it's a cool thing.
She's been doing this for years, and I'm like, you are just an old soul. So maybe you don't want grandma's silverware and silver sets because nobody wants to polish that crap anymore. Nobody wants to spend time polishing it. Maybe that little anomaly kid of yours or grandkid of yours says, that was grandma's? That was great grandma's? Would love to have that. And maybe you don't. Maybe there's no one that rises up in the family. Maybe there's a family friend.
Yeah.
Maybe connecting point that says, hey, this was a cousin, a second cousin, somebody, or a thrift store down the road.
And not even a thrift store. Now that you're saying that, so there was a buffet that my grandma has kept on, and usually I'm the grandkid that's like, yes, I will take it, like, give it to me. We couldn't get it into the house, like it wouldn't fit. So we actually found a store there that was, I don't want to say it was a thrift store, but anyways, it was a mom and pop shop because it was a small town in Rawlins, Wyoming, and we gifted them the buffet. I think they ended up giving my grandma boots for it, like, because my grandma loves shoes. But that was a fun, like, adventure and memory about the buffet. Like, I really want that buffet. So if you're listening to this and you're the person who got gifted it, my house will fit it now. No. I'm willing to take it back.
Oh, no. You didn't have the space then. Oh, no. Oh.
So I just want, I want to kind of switch. We've focused a lot on the seniors and how agents can help that, but I know right now a lot of agents that I know, they are actually the caregivers right now to their parents, and some of the things are happening. So what can they do to kind of just, they may be dealing and going through a lot of this with their clients, but how can they get some, just take a breath, I would say, because they have to switch role into caregiver. Like, they're caregiving, it's a little bit easier, I'd say, caregiving for somebody that you do not have that tie with.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Family caregiving is the absolute hardest job anyone will ever do. The dynamic of mother-daughter caregiving is even harder than that, and that there's relational reasons why. But you got to realize 1 in 4, so 25% of our community are taking care of someone older. 1 in 4 in the workforce are taking care of somebody older and being a caregiver. So what I say, whether you're an agent, whether you're a family member that's just stumbling across this and you have nothing to do with the real estate world, or you're an agent that's also working the dual role of you're over here and then you're going home and taking care of someone, put yourself in their shoes. The very first thing you want to do whenever you're trying to help anybody do anything is put yourself in their shoes. See it from their perspective. And the one thing that we all fail to do, the one thing that we all fail to do so frequently is we say, well, I'm looking at it from their perspective. No, put yourself in their shoes. And in order to do that, you have to take your own shoes off. So you have to remove yourself from your place of view and put yourself in their place of view. So if my mom, my grandma, my dad, my grandpa, my aunt, uncle, whoever this person is that you're caring for, maybe it's your spouse, they've always been super independent, and now they're unfortunately somewhat dependent. Think about how you would react. Think about what you would need. Put yourself in their shoes for just a few minutes. Say, oh my gosh, the thought of having somebody stand beside me while I have to take a shower so I don't fall. I say it. How many of us wake up in the morning and say, can't wait to get naked in front of my adult children. I just can't wait. Not one of us. Well, okay, if you do, I don't want to know you. I don't want to associate with you.
I was going to say, I even get uncomfortable now to the point where, like, when my girls come in, I'm like, yeah, like, come on. Like, and that was even a thought this morning, just simple things, right? Like, to make it more relatable to us. Like, my youngest, we're having her birthday party tomorrow. Well, they come barging into the bathroom all the time. And I was just thinking, gosh, I hope that the girls that are coming over, like, realize, like, don't come into the bathroom. But most of the time, they're trekking along behind them. And I'm like, So anyways, continue on.
It's, we want privacy. We want respect, and we want dignity. But for safety's sake, we may need assistance in that shower. So what would I need? What would I need if I had to have you as a standby in a shower with me? I mean, I have to think about it like that. Well, number one, I need the room to be very warm. I need the vent fan to never be on because I'm ADD and that crap's going to drive me nuts. So don't turn the vent fan on. I need the room to be warm. I'm probably going to need a shower seat. And I need a lot of towels because I don't want you seeing my stuff. I just want you to be there to make sure that I don't fall on this slippery floor. When I go to the restroom and I have to go poop, when it's time for a BM, I don't need an audience. None of us do. We don't want one. So something as simple as pulling the towel off the rack and draping it across my lap just gave me a barrier, made me warmer. Now, move that walker, move that wheelchair, move that assisted device out of the way and step out of the stinking room. You can probably peek through the mirror and still catch whether or not I'm trying to get up on my own or do anything that I shouldn't. But you don't have to be standing in the room because we all know that our poop doesn't stink and we never want anyone to be in the room with us and realize it, right? We don't want them to know that because they feel bad that theirs does. That's just the way it is. Most people can pee in front of others. We do it when we sneeze, so we can usually do it otherwise. So that's not the issue, but a bowel movement. And so a lot of our aged people will end up being very constipated because they never get a private poop. Serious. And then the families are like, well, they're impacted again. Well, what are you doing when it's time for them to go to the restroom? Well, I take them in and I just stand there and I pat my foot and I just wait. Don't do those things. If you're taking care of an aged person, take care of them in the way that you would want. Take care of them in a way that they deserve, which is with that dignity and respect. And little simple things go a long, long way. That dryer's close by, man, throw those towels in the dryer. If you can afford one, go buy a towel warmer and plug it in the bathroom. Because there's nothing that feels any better, because I'm not holding my heat as well when I'm aging. My body doesn't regulate temperature as well. And there's nothing that feels any better than to have a hot, warm towel just wrapped around me as soon as the water gets turned off. That's going to be a spa day. You can create those things and you can help those things. Don't all of a sudden decide that mom in her 80s needs to quit smoking. She's been doing it since she was 22. She did it through her pregnancies. They didn't care then. They didn't know any different. Don't decide that you're going to come in and treat her like a China doll and put her up on a shelf to preserve and look at. she still gets to live her life. So don't rush in and make these decisions. You can't have that to eat. Why can't I have a banana split for dinner? It has dairy. It has fruit. It has chocolate syrup, I can promise you. It may have some strawberry topping. Why can't I have what I want to eat? I'm on the end of life, and I should be allowed to enjoy the pleasures that exist. But we as families often come in and we want to preserve our family members. We want to save them. Don't save me from myself. Help me enjoy my life. And I would tell any caregiver that. I would also say, I love when people say, well, you need respite care. You need to take a break. I don't get to pee alone. There's no breaks to be had. I get up in the morning and I take care of mom, dad, whoever this person is. I go off and I work and I do as much as I can to keep the bills paid and maybe see my kids and maybe help them with their homework. And then I'm back over here. There is no time for a break. And I am literally at my wit's end and I don't know what else to do. And you've heard me teach this. Get in your daggone car, roll your windows up, and scream as loud as you can scream. Because you're going to release all that negative and you're going to actually pull in a bunch of endorphins. And while it sounds really, really stupid to do, the amount of release that you get from that and the stress that goes away with that is incredible. I love softball. I had a very, very stressful job when my kids were young. I hung a heavy bag on my front porch. Fortunately, I did not live in a town where there was houses next to it. I lived on a farm and I lived way back. I had a heavy bag, a punching heavy bag. And I had a ball bat that sat there. And every day when I would come home from work, I would literally stand there and just swing and beat the firewater out of that bag until I could walk in the door released from all that stress. And I didn't take that frustration out on my family. I took it out with a ball bat on a bag. And so as that caregiver who never gets a break, and I love people that say, well, go get a petty, go get a mani, go get something. Yeah, right. I can't afford to do it because I'm paying their bills too. And I can barely make my own. My kid's softball game or basketball game or whatever is way more important than me trying to take off and go have a cup of coffee. Sorry.
I would even say to that too of, for me, if you know the disc profile, I bounce between an I and an S, sometimes a D. I never go into C. I'm just not that. But the S personality wants to take care of. So when I'm in that role too, if I go do something caring for me, the guilt of,
sure,
mom's at home like, oh my gosh, I hope whoever I put in charge knows that XYZ, knows to give her space when she goes to the bathroom. It might take a while, or to look at this angle so that you can still see her so she doesn't fall. Like those thoughts, and that can actually be even more harmful to yourself.
Sure.
So I love your screaming thing. I do that now. Like I heard it and I was like, sold.
There you go. Sold. I can do that, and I can actually be a better mom and a wife and a human being because I've done that.
Yeah.
And so you have to give yourself that moment, that minute. And what you were saying, that caregiver stress of what if they don't do it right? What if that's where the care and feeding instructions comes into play? That's where writing out a care plan as a primary caregiver. Please do this. Do two things. If you're a primary caregiver, find a substitute. Whether it's a friend, a nursing student, a church member, an agency. Find a substitute in the event an emergent situation happens. Have somebody that you can glean from, and then write those things down. No different than and how the whole care and feeding instructions to me came out to me. I mean, you just heard the dogs, right? They mean the world to me. I do a lot of traveling. So when I leave, there is a detailed list on how exactly what treats they get, when they get them, when they get fed, when they get this, what they get. There's a detailed list. If I can do that for my dog, why can't I do that for myself and my loved ones? And that's exactly what you have to do, because the stress of them not doing it right will eat you alive. But then you have to realize something. It's okay if they don't do it 100% right. It's okay if they don't do everything exactly the way you did. Maybe you get to go to your kid's graduation or whatever, and you have respite care in, and they didn't get the shower because your loved one wasn't comfortable with that caregiver doing it. Okay, guess what? It's not going to kill anybody. Maybe they missed a dose of medicine. One missed dose usually isn't going to be a catastrophic thing. It's usually not going to be catastrophic. So we have to leave room for imperfection too, because caregiving cannot be a perfect thing. And if you're coming at it from your professional mindset, which many of us have, you got to throw that out the door. You got to get rid of that. And you got to say, you know what? I'm going to do the best I can with the time I have, with the knowledge I have. And then you're going to look back, and hindsight's going to be 20/20. No different than raising your children. Because you're raising your kids and you're doing everything the best that you can with the knowledge that you have. And then when you get to be my age, you go, I should have done it better. And that's why we make better grandparents than we do parents. It really is. But you kind of have to give yourself, as much as you're giving them dignity and empathy, you got to give yourself grace as a caregiver. You are doing the hardest job in the world. And you're doing it with very little support, with very little training, with very, very, very low to no pay. And so your compensation has to be the reward of the time spent.
Beautifully put. Okay, so on my show, I didn't tell you this beforehand, but the last guest leaves us a question for the next guest. And I think this is very fitting for you in what you do. So you're at the end of your life. What is the one thing that you were proud that you accomplished or created in the world?
Oh, wow. I'm at the end of my life. What is the one thing I'm proud of accomplishing? I believe, if not all of my life, but a huge portion of my life has been dedicated to spreading empathy and dignity. And I am very proud of the fact that there has been a multitude of people that have been affected by the messages that I've been able to convey. And that the legacy that I have in my own children and my own grandchildren, but the legacy in what I've been able to teach and impart to others, will live and go beyond me.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Good question.
Yeah.
So now you're telling me I got to come up with a question?
Yep, you'll come up with a question. But it doesn't have to be right now. You can send it later, because it's kind of like a mystery of what's going to happen.
Okay.
But okay, to wrap things up, if everybody, I thank you so much, Sam, for coming and just dumping so much knowledge into this, and how just people, not only with seniors, but can treat other human beings. For those of you who are like, I need more help than the books, Sam does have her VIP room. I highly, highly recommend that you go and get that, or gift it to your clients. It is what, $30 a month and $300 a year?
Yeah,
is that correct?
$30 a month or $300 for the year
So a simple investment that will make such a huge impact. And if you don't have all the tools and you want to hand that over to Sam, Sam has a bunch of stuff within there where you can come ask questions, they can come ask questions, and it takes the workload off of you. So VIPmorethanheart.com is the other thing. Again, Sam, I know you have to go. I appreciate your time and everything that you are doing in this world. I think that your deepest, proudest accomplishment that you are hoping for is already taking place. I know it's already taking place and has already made such an impact. So thank you again for being on with us. And we'll see you all next time.
Thank you so much for having me.